Wow, you guys, the BTS ARMY has awakened like a sleeping dragon that was just being patient. Well, they're not taking it anymore. You know, it's only been about a week since New Jeans had their declaration of rebellion in their live press conference. And by Monday of this week, the BTS ARMY announced a worldwide statement that they are done with Min Hee-jin. They are making clear their demands as fans of BTS to protect their fandom. And they did it loud. They were set in motion. They were set off like Angela Bassett in a walk-in closet on a hot summer afternoon without any air conditioning, thinking about her husband. Yeah.
Did you start this fire, ma'am? It's against the law to burn anything except trash in your own yard, ma'am.
It is trash.
But was this truly an army declaration? How do we know it's real? And what standards do we put on it? And for that matter, let's clear up a few things that have been grossly misinterpreted and attributed to ARMY. So I've said in previous videos that we have to be very careful and vigilant on public declarations claiming to speak on behalf of ARMY, because up until this point, there has been a lot of situations in the whole Min Hee-jin saga where it looks like people who weren't ARMY were pretending to be ARMY in order to manipulate public opinion. Well, Monday's declaration that went all around the world, trending on social media with the hashtag mainly of minheejinout. And that was very smart because that is essentially a way that Korean people use that phrase. You could call it Konglish, you could just call it Korean Nouveau 21st century. But if you want to say get out or fire somebody, it's instead of the hashtag being fire Min Hee-jin or get Min Hee-jin out, just the name plus out is how Korean people, especially when they do their demonstrations, want somebody express that they want to fire somebody or get somebody out of there. So that was smart. But do we know that this was truly ARMY? And this is the clue, because the group never said that they were the ARMY speaking on the as official ARMY. When we saw the funeral wreaths campaign supposedly by the K-ARMY, it was very much presented as like we are the official word of the K-ARMY and this comes from the K-ARMY. Not the case at all. So the way that I've been able to try to fact check and verify from a somewhat outside perspective, although y'all are saying like I'm so HYBE ARMY, but a little bit outside, is that I've noticed that the statements themselves don't claim to be the entire group. They claim that they are part of the ARMY. So that is, for me, step one, where it sounds real. And then step two, it's the wisdom or the verification of the crowd. So actual ARMY fans around the world, if they agree, are going to support the statement in agreement. So it truly is a very organic, natural, verifiable response and measure of public opinion within the ARMY group, because they're speaking and voting unfettered, and they're, let's say it's the opposite, sort of like the funeral wreaths. You didn't get a lot of people who were ARMY supporting it. You didn't get the multiplier effect of the shares on social media. You didn't get the effect of the agreement that you can see so heavily in this Min Hee-jin out campaign, which really looks like somebody in the army says, this is my opinion as an army, and it's enough of a issue for me that I want to speak out as an army member. And then you have other people who are BTS fans and part of the BTS army agreeing. The difference was with that whole funeral wreaths like truck campaign in front of HYBE was that was a very manipulated type of statement to the public where they tried to prove on their social media that they were officially part of the fan club by taking photos of their fan cards and some albums that they may have bought. Then it was parroted by mainstream media. So in that type of situation, all you have to do is really pay off one person who's going to do that on social media and pay off a journalist or use your special back channel connections of favors of do this for me and then I'll give you something else later on. And then it amplifies a message that really is pushed by somebody trying to manipulate public opinion to make it look like a global movement. Now we have an example of the difference. How can you tell if this is organic versus factory farmed full of pesticides? If you look at the pesticide, you're like, oh, well, it looks bright and shiny. It doesn't have any spots. No worms are eating it. It looks very natural. But then on the other hand, really, if it was organic, there'd be still some nibbles by a caterpillar or whatnot. So this is how we can see the difference between an organic response for public opinion by the BTS army versus what we saw as extremely manufactured and sold to the public as a true army with the whole funeral wreath and the bunny trucks or the truck campaign when they were supposedly raising all that money and instantly from an unknown army account got all of these donations. Notice how that this recent statement, they're not asking for money. That should also be another clue. So what did they exactly say in this message that had trended globally in countries reported in North America, UK, Germany, Poland, Southeast Asia, all over the place this week? Well, September 16th, 2024, regarding Min Hee-jin out. As members of the BTS Army community, we would like to share our perspective on the ongoing management situation through this statement as we are witnessing false narratives being spread on our behalf. First and foremost, we express our unified opposition to the reinstatement of Min Hee-jin as the CEO of ADOR, a subsidiary of HYBE. We remain cognizant of the previous CEO's actions against BTS during their military enlistment, her consultations with the shaman intending harm against BTS, and her strategies to manipulate the Korean media against both BTS and the army. In light of these circumstances, we must view all media narratives and accusations directed at BTS, particularly those implying their support for Min Hee-jin, as unfounded and part of her agenda. We recognize that BTS may currently lack the freedom to express their views openly, which reinforces our position. We urge former CEO Min Hee-jin to stop using artists and fandoms as shields to spread her agenda and lies through the media. To our fellow Army members, we urge you not to place your trust in the Korean media. As previously reported, there were indications that the media would be used to circulate multiple narratives against BTS during their enlistment, with a clear plan to do it prior to their discharge in 2025, and we are witnessing this unfold. We caution Army that this also applies to causing harm to those connected to BTS, including their families, label, friends, activities, and more. So we can see just the way that the New Jeans members focused their press conference on Min Hee-jin, this statement to the public by BTS Army or members of BTS Army focused on Min Hee-jin and the threat she imposed, particularly on BTS. Why does BTS Army have to speak up? Because they deserve a seat at this table because they are speaking up on behalf of BTS, who we know that from evidence of Min Hee-jin's communications had already plotted and planned to eliminate, destroy, annihilate BTS. We've seen the message, and even the message saying like, oh, we sped up the timeline. We're going to start on April 30th. And coincidentally, when was her big old press conference? This makes me realize in some way, like, answers a question that I had at the time, because there was a lot unfolding and suddenly she had this press conference and I was actually impressed. I was like, dang, she really went through all of her old Kakao Talk messages in like 24 hours and then prepared this PowerPoint. How was that possible? That was so fast. But it looked like she probably already had this planned and she was gonna do a press conference no matter what. It just got into a pickle because HYBE beat her to the punch by saying like, look, she is trying to do a dirty takeover, destroy BTS, do all this weird shamanic stuff, and she is causing a huge ruckus. And then she used that as the reason for her press conference, but it looked like she had already prepared all of these messages and statements. So you could see from this current one, yes, it looked like ARMY was more patient then, because ARMY definitely, their first response wouldn't be to fund a campaign through social media to support Min Hee-jin and New Jeans. That would not be the first instinct of the BTS ARMY then. What we do see now, to me, looks more natural and organic of a BTS response, where you would just kind of bite your tongue, hold your tongue, wait, don't be so reactive, be patient, and then get to a point here on September 16th, a few days after the declaration of rebellion by New Jeans members themselves out of their own mouth saying that they're going to support their former CEO Min Hee-jin. That is the red line. That is when patience has run out. And that is when, yes, you go, it is trash. Now, there's a lot of people who try to manipulate and disempower the ARMY, especially the Global ARMY, by saying, you don't understand Korea, you don't understand Korean culture, you are not allowed to even have an opinion. Some people say all of those, I don't think, are valid whatsoever. You think that somebody in America who may, God forbid, have a problem with maybe their Samsung washing machine or their Hyundai car, they're not allowed to have an opinion about their car or washing machine because they're not Korean? What I do think that the Korean public who may use that line as an attack against ARMY are referring to is the part of Korean culture where you're supposed to accept the unacceptable, accept what is unfair. So what they're trying to say in some ways is like, you just don't understand that we have to accept our abusers, and you have to understand that that is a right position or a correct position to take. If not, you don't understand our culture. Now, first of all, that kind of thinking, yes, is prevalent not only in Korea, though. It's prevalent in any kind of hierarchical society where there is an imbalance of power and the people who have power can freely abuse the people beneath them. And in order to protect yourself as somebody who's being abused, you have to, in some ways, at least give the impression that you're accepting the unacceptable. And then this is why I think this is a knee-jerk reaction from this crowd. The weaker mind people in that situation will have to just even go one step further and think it's correct. because it is hard to keep that duality of pretending that something is right when you know it's not right. So instead of fighting, a lot of people will just cave in and make it easier on themselves by saying like, well, I guess that's right as well, because that, and then how do you justify it? The easiest go-to answer is always because that's just the Korean culture, or that is just Korea. So, so those people should not even be speaking on that, because that is actually anti-nationalistic. It degrades the brand value of Korea and Korean culture. A lot of the times what I've noticed in Korea when people use those arguments is that, yes, it may be true in some bubble, within some bubbles in Korea, within your environment, your world, because once you test this, the easiest way to stress test this is bring your problem in Korea that is so, like in your mind, Korean, and you bring it to a different group of people in Korea, and you say like, yeah, this is happening because it's Korean. They will immediately back up and be like, no, that is not Korean. How could you say that that is Korean? So it is an excuse. So you don't have to fall into the gaslighting of people saying that, oh, you don't understand Korean culture, therefore you can't say anything. Then tell them that they can't say anything about their Louis Vuitton or BMW or Heineken, Tsingtao, or even Ore-Ida French fries because they're not American, French, German, or Chinese. So the biggest thing I noticed about this message was that they didn't want CEO Min Hee-jin, former CEO, Now, Min Hee-jin, you're going to have to always call yourself 전 대표, to just stop spreading lies. Deception was a big part of this. Notice how it is about falsehoods, agendas, manipulation. That is a very specific charge and actually is so not respectable. And this is where I have some real beef with HYBE. Yes, if you're wondering, like, you're just like some of the critics are saying like of me have been like, oh, why are you so pro HYBE? Well, yeah, here's some beef with HYBE, but it's not just HYBE. It's the way that the system of PR and the official announcements the media have developed in this part of the 21st century that we're in right now. Old school is press releases, official press releases released by the press department of a company. And there's even an expression of crossing the wires, means that there was always one professional place where press releases from companies, the government, nonprofits, anybody would go be uploaded and released on, and that would be a central official depot for press releases. The people in that era doing PR coming to this era, if they just teleported in through time, would be shocked. They would never ever believe that a company would release a press release as a disappearing story on Instagram and have that be the only way to find the press release, and then not be able to find the press release again if you didn't grab it within that 24-hour period. That is just a whole weird different world. And so to track down and verify is a lot harder now. That means the system can be much more easily manipulated. So before, if you're just like, well, it's not on the PR newswire, therefore what you're probably saying is not credible, you can easily probably shut down and fake stories and hold people accountable. But now, if you're opening up the possibility that even a conglomerate, a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, is going to announce something official on a disappearing Instagram story that you can't get if you miss that 24-hour window, now in your mind, as somebody of the media and the public, you have to think that perhaps that is a possibility. So for the people who did grab the information in that time, you have to trust what they say, or you have to go through so many different hoops that most people won't go through to verify that information. And therefore, whoever has that exclusive story or story that they claim to have are much more believed, or believed long enough for the agenda to get across, public opinion to be shaped, and then maybe the retraction or sorry, I made a mistake is made a lot later, and then nobody reads the sorry. And then the other problem I think with HYBE is that they're giving information not even in the Instagram story, but to one or two media outlets as exclusives, as favors. Because if you're the only one with the story, then your media gets the clicks, and in that environment we're in, that essentially is almost an equivalent of a cashless bribe. And so that is a problem as well, because then we're going to have to trust the reporter who broke the story. So in particular, when a lot of you had brought up, wait a minute, we haven't seen an official statement from Big Hit Music supporting the stories that have come out about Jungkook's Instagram post on his dog's Instagram, suggesting support to protect the artists of New. So you see what world we're in? It's kind of like on a dog's Instagram page of announcements that move the market in a multi-billion-dollar K-pop conglomerate on an artist's dog's Instagram page that we have to somehow try to verify. This was really hard. So no, I could not for the life of me find the actual statement, because it looked like it was given exclusively, I believe, to My Daily, but even that wasn't completely clear. The thing with the press release, the reason why people trusted the press release as a industry practice is that if one reporter claimed that this is what HYBE said, anybody with the official press release around the world can verify and be like, yep, that reporter reported correctly. But if everybody has the press release, that means everybody can report correctly. And so that first reporter doesn't really have that much of an advantage. So they kind of give it to one reporter. On the flip side, just so you know, the mainstream media has become addicted to these official press releases. And so they'll just like quote press release, and not verify, double fact, just be lazier with trying to get the truth. So a lot of people have also manipulated the press release and kind of put in misdirections or agendas, or sometimes even outright lies. And then the media is like, okay, well, if this is wrong information, then we're not, as the media organization or reporter, responsible. It's the person who wrote the press release. So in this situation we have right now is that we don't have a press release, and we don't even have a disappearing story on Instagram. We have to trust the reporter who supposedly got the exclusive. So that makes it harder, but that makes it easier for lies to run about, and that makes it easier for misinformation campaigns to thrive in the Korean media. Why in the Korean media in particular? Because there's a lot of bribery or behind the scenes greasing of the palms. And these days, a way to do it without actually getting in trouble with like giving somebody money is like, fine, we'll give you the exclusive and then you can get the money through the monetization of your story or whatever kind of more attention that it brings. But overall, it does seem that that was a true statement by Big Hit. But that's just a long way to say is that we can't say 100% for sure. We are trusting in this situation the reporter who first claimed that that was from Big Hit. And until they maybe even publish the email or whatever statement that they got from Big Hit, we still have to trust that reporter. And in the past, we may have been able to trust reporters a lot more. But now trust of the media is probably at an all-time low. So that is why people are still asking for more receipts, as you should. And for one clear example that happened this week where our favorite pro-Bunny, pro-New Jeans, pro-Min Hee-jin reporter did yet again strap in. So this was egregious. Now, you probably might have heard about this story because there was controversy over this reporter editing out something in a sentence. So the way that this story was framed, even the lawyer who was the main subject of this story complained about him being misrepresented. He didn't even talk, for as far as I know, to this reporter. This lawyer just posted his opinions of the press conference from last week on his own Facebook page. So he just had this long essay on his Facebook page. And then this reporter used that Facebook post to create a story that was so manipulative. So in the headline, this reporter made it look like this prominent lawyer says that HYBE has lost to Min Hee-jin, sort of like legally. But see how it was tricky? He didn't even have to say legally because obviously it's a lawyer saying this, so he must be talking about it legally. No, he was talking about it metaphorically. This lawyer, although, talk about staying in your own lane, he was talking about good, lawyerly stuff. And then he started going into if I was running the entertainment company and this, talk about staying in your own lane. But what he meant by that was that HYBE has already lost the image battle with New Jeans by not being the magnanimous parent taking care and establishing trust to bring New Jeans over to HYBE. We'll go into that in a little bit, but basically, even the story did mention that this lawyer said legally HYBE did nothing wrong. Legally, Min Hee-jin is most likely going to lose. Legally, New Jeans has no right to tell HYBE management what they want. All of that is anti-Min Hee-jin. It's very clinical and it is very legalese. That is his lane. The transition to where I think he's going out of his lane is still a bit in his lane. He's saying that by the time you get to the law, it's too late. Sort of like by the time you get to, not that couples counseling doesn't work, but if you spent years destroying each other in a relationship and then you go to couples counseling, a lot of the times it's kind of too late. So in a similar vein, he's saying by the time you get to the law to solve a problem like this, it's too late. However, he's making all sorts of assumptions. He's not inside HYBE. He's not working even in the entertainment field. And he's saying that the firing of Min Hee-jin was extremely messy. No kidding, Sherlock. If there is somebody who broke into your house, coming at you with a weapon, you better believe that trying to expel them is gonna look messy. That defending yourself and your property against an aggressor in the moment is not gonna be organized and clean. It's gonna be messy. And I think that was a situation that we're seeing with HYBE. That is the situation that the fandom and the army is responding toward. It said that it looked like there were no experts involved in the New Jeans statement process. And I was like, yeah, no kidding, because mama ain't got no law degree. This was the critical sentence that was manipulated or argued over. Roughly translated, it's saying, even though Min Hee-jin attacked BTS, HYBE should really reflect on why ARMY is not on their side being on HYBE's side. But that is his conjecture. That is his interpretation of BTS ARMY not wanting to take the side of anybody but BTS. So perhaps there are BTS ARMY that supports HYBE, perhaps there aren't. But even if they wanted to say their position, it's not a unified stance because ARMY is just made up of individuals. But as public statements to be as inclusive as possible, I think it's very smart and wise for BTS ARMY not to pick any sides and just keep their focus and loyalty and dedication onto the BTS members, as it should be. Also, let's continue on with the lawyer and how he's like now really veering way off of his own lane. He's saying that it's not surprising that the New Jeans members had such a close and strong rapport and relationship with Min Hee-jin because they were raised as idols from such a young age. Now, this is where he really should stay in his own lane because he's blaming this close bond on youth and just natural attachment. But that is not the issue. The issue here is, are you attaching yourself to a predator mentor or a regular professional mentor? It would look different. And yes, in both cases, there are natural forces and impetus for a young person to attach onto a mentor figure. On the other hand, it is also natural for adolescents to rebel against their authoritative figure. So where is that? You just can't make a blanket statement like this in terms of like, well, this is adolescents attaching onto their mama. But that's not the main issue. That could happen. You could be attached. You could rebel. Okay, just because they attached doesn't mean that this is a natural situation, especially if you have a predator mentor manipulating and strengthening that attachment and creating disincentives and threats and who knows what else if you break off that attachment. He also said, if I were working in this business managing New Jeans, first of all, you're not. And I don't know why you think you have authority to put that kind of an opinion on there. It's as if like we're going to put opinions on how you should write your legal briefs to the judge. So he said that Bang Si-hyuk should have met with New Jeans in person and proven his trust so that they could trust him personally. I don't know about that. At this point, it would be good for him to keep his distance. Otherwise, he would be accused of meddling. And really, do you think he could have done that where he was the one supposed to present how trusting he could be in them after they stickered up his building, how they publicly slandered him and said that, oh, you didn't greet me in the elevator, and then you pledged your undying oath to the demon. I don't know if there would be a lot of chairmen thinking that it's just worth the trouble here on that. Do you actually think he had any chance of winning them over? He knows better than you, Mr. Lawyer, from being in that building, working with Min Hee-jin, working with the New Jeans members, whether there was any possibility for him to be able to bring the New Jeans members outside of the clutches of Min Hee-jin to his side. Don't you think he's already assessed that and tried to gauge that? Even from our position outside, we can see that that is a very low probability outcome, and it would probably create more problems than it was worth to try even. You said, first of all, that this whole clash between Min Hee-jin and HYBE was a capitalist fight. And in that vein, then, it makes sense for HYBE to cut its losses, understand that there was a sunk cost in this, and move on, and not to pour more money and resources into a money pit. Because if you were actually somebody working at HYBE, you would also know that you have to take care of the well-being and trust in relationships with all of your other artists that number way more than New Jeans numerically in people and support staff and also revenue. You have to also realize that they have to make an appropriate response that will take care of the well-being of the other artists in the family. It's not just about the New Jeans girls. If you actually were in the industry like that, you would also have a broader perspective. So when this lawyer said that HYBE has already lost, he was referring to even if HYBE wins in court, even when HYBE has a legal victory, which looks very likely, they've already lost. And he was being more poetic. They've already lost in this intangible spirit of not being able to have that relationship with New Jeans. And that is what he meant by HYBE has already lost. And then now let's go into the manipulated story by this reporter where he said that HYBE already lost, implying that HYBE has already lost the legal battle. But he was smart in the sense that he went straight up to the line where he probably wouldn't officially get in trouble in terms of the strict laws of perhaps journalism, because he's quoting the words of this lawyer, and he's quoting them from a Facebook post, not even a face-to-face interview. But the way that he's quoting it and then making it read in the whole, search engine optimization world that we live in, and just look quickly at headlines and maybe the first two sentences, he manipulated it in the sense it made it look like legally HYBE has lost to Min Hee-jin. HYBE didn't take good care of New Jeans. And then the reason why this was so sus is that the first sentence of this story was saying that this lawyer was Lee Jae-myung's lawyer, which is essentially the main opposition candidate. So basically kind of saying oh, it's Hillary Clinton's lawyer from the law firm. Saying something like that where people would immediately recognize, oh, this is important. What this guy is saying, has some clout. Maybe they're trying to appeal to the progressive liberal camp by, mentioning it's Lee Jae-myung's lawyer. Has nothing to do with this case. And they're just he's name dropping it in the first sentence. It makes no sense unless you're really trying to say top lawyer says legally, HYBE has lost to Min Hee-jin without saying it that way, because if you said it that way, that would be a lie, first of all. But in somebody's mind, that's what they're going to remember. And that's the manipulation. And that's why people don't trust this reporter. They don't trust a lot of the K-media. A lot of it is now being driven by agendas like this. It doesn't make people feel good about trust, which is why I think it makes so much more sense for the BTS ARMY portion of them, at least, who wanted to issue that statement, to kind of get it off their chest and say, like, look, we're sick and tired of this. No more. Done. We're drawing our line in the sand. You done woke up the dragon. We was trying to sleep. You trying to woke us up like at 4 a.m., but we're trying to get back to sleep. No. 4 a.m. if that was April. Now it's 9 a.m. in September. We can wake up anyway. So kudos to BTS ARMY, or a portion of BTS ARMY that wanted to speak out publicly, and kudos for the rest of the people in ARMY who agree to also speak out and make this a worldwide trending hashtag and statement in support of BTS, the truth, and justice, and with a little bit of house cleaning along the way. So what do you guys think? Did you see the statement? Did you see some of these controversial news items? Let's just pray that Jin has a great showing at Milan Fashion Week and he out Gucci's somebody else. All right, guys, put your comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.